today we're going to be going over our record predictions for the upcoming NFL season. Schedules got released yesterday, so now we are going to give our quick record predictions. Now, throughout the summer, going to be sort of analyzing or breaking down each team. So maybe I'll have a little more thought into their records that I think they can get. But for now, we're doing quick reactions, quick record predictions. Before we get in the video, leave a like if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new. In the comment section below, let me know some of the things you agree with, disagree with, and some of your record predictions for your favorite teams, or any team in general. But without further ado, let's get to these predictions. So first, we have the AFC South Titans at 5-12. It's a 2-win improvement from last year. I think just the instant going from Will Levis to Cam Ward can get you 2 more wins, because the rest of the team is relatively the same. And then you also add O-line improvements like Dan Moore, Kevin Zeitler, and your younger guys like Skoronski and Latham potentially getting better. I don't see what I think that easily can be a improved record. And I don't think 2 wins is anything crazy. I think Cam Ward will have ups and downs his rookie year. I don't think he'll be one of the better rookie quarterbacks we've seen or one of the worst, because I think he has a decent team around him, not the best. So I think it will be an up and down season, but I do think there'll be a lot of bright spots and a lot of promise from the Titans season. Colts 6-11. It is 2 wins worse than their 8-win season last year. I just think they lost too many pieces, mainly the O-linemen and Ryan Kelly and Will Fries. They also lost Oda Yingbo, an edge rusher. And I think if you combine that with the question marks at quarterback with Richardson and Daniel Jones, I just don't know how great of a year it will be for the Colts. I still think they can get wins, but I just don't see them having a better year than they did last year. Jags at 7-10, probably one of the bigger improvements with a 3-win improvement from last year. I think you combine Trevor Lawrence with Brian Thomas for a full season. You add Travis Hunter and then some other defensive additions. I think they brought in Jordan Lewis from the Cowboys from free agency. I think it'll be a much better season for the Jags, and I could see them potentially sneaking into that 7th spot in the playoffs. I think I have an 8-win team in that 7th spot right now, and they're at 7-10. So I could easily see them sneaking in that spot in real life. But I just think they're a little bit away from that, maybe just a year away. But I think 7-10 will be a great year for the Jags regardless. And I think that can keep Trevor Lawrence as the future quarterback for them. And lastly, Texans at 11-6. It is a 1-win improvement, even though I think maybe they got slightly worse, at least offensively. Obviously, you lose Tank Dell for the season. You lose Diggs. And you bring in Christian Kirk, the Iowa State receivers. You do get, hopefully, Nico Collins, obviously, for a full season. But the main question is that O-line, because that O-line was not very good last year, and they pretty much revamped it. They got rid of mainly Kenyon Green and Laramie Tunzel. And if that O-line can play okay and keep Stroud a lot more protected than he was last year, and you combine that with their very good defense, who I think will just get better because they had a lot of young guys. So if the young guys get better, they brought in C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I think if you combine their potentially top 5 defense with a good O-line or an okay O-line, I think them and C.J. Stroud could easily get around the same record, and maybe even, as I have here, 1 win better. Moving on to the NFC West, we first of all have the Cardinals at 8-9. Now that's the same record that they had last year. Very similar team. They didn't really make a ton of moves. I do think the Kyler Murray to Marvin Harrison connection will get better in year 2, but it's a tough division. As you can see, a lot of even teams. So I think it will be hard for them to have a much more improved year than they did the previous year. Matter of fact, again, as I said, I have them winning the same amount of games. It's just a good team. Like the Cardinals, they're not like a really good team. They're not a really bad team. They're just a solid team. that it's going to be around 500 for most part with the current team they have, and I don't see it being any different this year. Seahawks at 8-9 as well. It's a 2-win decrease from last year. Now, I don't think they necessarily have that much worse of a team than they did last year because I like Sam Darnold. I think him and Geno Smith are very comparable. You swap Metcalf out with Cooper Kupp. I just think that you're changing quarterbacks, especially to a guy like Sam Darnold who has been inconsistent in his career. And I feel like you're just changing too much for them to go right back to 10 wins. So I think they could take a little bit of a step back. And then the following year when they have a little more, they get a little more chemistry with each other, I think they can get back to that potential 10-win season. But I think they might take a little bit step back, especially considering a team like the Niners in their division should be better, and even the Rams. But I still think it'll be a good season for the Seahawks. I just think they might have a little bit of a hard time getting going early on. As I said, Niners 8-9. It's a 2-win improvement. I know they lost a lot in free agency, like Hufanga and Charvarius Ward and Dre Greenlaw. But I feel like those players that they lost were injured for most of last year when they won 6 games. But they also had other players who are hurt. So they're getting players healthy that are still on the team. And I think that alone can get them to 8 wins. Now, if they were able to retain the other guys, and they were healthy, that's when you're talking about like a 10, 11 win team. But I still think they can get an improved record from last year, despite losing all those guys, because they were hurt regardless. And then lastly, Rams at 11-6. It's a 1-win improvement from last year. Kind of like the Texans. They were a good team last year. They didn't really change too much. They have that, obviously, you swap out Cooper Kupp for Devontae Adams. And if Adams and Puka can stay healthy, unlike Puka and Cooper Kupp did last year, I don't see why they can't get one more win. They still have that really good young D-line, good coaching. They're just a good team that's just going to be good again because their team is very similar to what they were last year. Next division, we have the AFC North. So first, the Ravens at 11-6. It is a 1-win decrease from last year, but that's not necessarily showing that they got worse. They're pretty much the same team. They're just really good. And then maybe the schedule-wise led me to having them win 11 games versus 12. I don't think they necessarily got so much better to where they're going to get 13 or 14 wins, but I don't think they got that much worse either, and I think they'll be around 11 to 12 wins. I just happened to have them get 11 in this. But again, just a good team, not too much to talk about there. Bengals at 8-9. It is a win worse than last year. I just think the defense is going to have a hard time being very good, especially if Trey Hendrickson is not on the team. And I don't know if that is very likely based on what we've seen recently, that he's going to be on the Bengals again. And if he's not on the team, that defense is not going to be very good. But offensively, they're still going to be very good with Burrow and Higgins and Chase Brown and all those guys. It's still going to be a very good offense. It's just going to be the case. And that offense should be able to will them. If they were able to take that defense to 9 wins last year, I don't see why they could get 8 wins this year. Steelers at 6 wins. It is a 4-win decrease than last year. I just don't know about the quarterback position. If they get Aaron Rodgers, I could see them getting 8 to 9 wins and it being very similar to last year. But if their quarterbacks are Will Howard, or I don't even know who else is on their quarterback room, I think Skylar Thompson is. I don't even know if Mason Rudolph is still on the team. I just have a hard time seeing them get to that 9-win, 10-win mark that they've gotten to recently. But I don't see why I don't think they're going to get 4 wins, even if those are their quarterbacks, because they've gotten to those 9, 10-win seasons with very mediocre or average or even just inconsistent quarterback play. So I don't see why they can't get 6 wins. It's still a very well-coached team, still a very good defense. You still have good pieces around the quarterbacks. And again, if Rodgers is on the team, I think this goes up. But we don't know that yet, so I like them at 6 wins for now. And the Browns at 4-13, it's a 1-win improvement. It wasn't a great team last year with not good quarterbacks, and it's not a great team this year with not so good quarterbacks either. And they could end up playing like 4 quarterbacks this season, which I don't think results in a lot of wins. And I don't think they will get a lot of wins if they didn't last year. It's a very similar team, so I gave them one more win because I like Joe Flacco better than the quarterbacks they had last year, but I still don't think it's going to be a great season for the Browns. Moving on to the NFC South, Bucks at 11-6 is a 1-win improvement from last year. Again, very similar team. The third 10-win team to go up to 11 wins with the Rams and the Texans, but they didn't make a lot of changes. They're just a very good team that remained very good, and I just don't think they'll get a ton of wins with the division getting better, mainly the Falcons and the Panthers, but I still think they are the best team in that division, and I still think it'll be hard for teams like the Falcons and Panthers to knock them off in that division. Falcons at 8-9, same record as they had last year, very similar team. Because I know Kirk Cousins struggled, but he played so well early on and got them so many wins that I don't think you could say if Penix was playing, they would have gotten more than 8 wins. I think if Penix was playing in the last 4 weeks that Kirk Cousins played, then maybe they would have gotten more wins. But now you have to take out Kirk Cousins, so I think they'll even out. Penix for a whole year is pretty similar, I think, to Kirk Cousins being really good, then really bad, then Penix. They did add, obviously, the 2 young edge rushers in Walker and Pierce. So we'll see how that defense looks. They should get a lot more pressure than they did last year. But I think, again, it's a very similar team. So I like 8 wins for them. Panthers at 7-10. It's a 2-win improvement. I think when you factor in bringing in McMillan, the defensive additions they made, Derek Brown getting healthy, and with how Bryce Young looked at the end of the year, if he can carry that over, I think it's very realistic that they get better. And I think 2 wins better is, again, not that unrealistic. I think it all boils down to, can Bryce Young carry over what he did at the end of last year into this year? And if he can, I could see them even maybe getting 8 or 9 wins. I just think that the Falcons and Bucks just have a little bit more than them, and they do have a tough schedule, so I do have them only getting 7, but I do think it'll be a big improvement for Bryce Young and the Panthers. And lastly, Saints at 4-13. It's 1 win less than they got last year, because you go from Carr and Spencer Rattler to Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shook. I think 1 win worse makes sense there. Because obviously you had the very amazing 2-week start last year for the Saints, and then only getting 3 wins to finish the season. And I think outside of their quarterback room, they have a very similar team. And again, I think going from Carr to Shook is about 1 win less. Next division is the AFC East on the left side here. We have the Bills getting 12 wins, a 1-win decrease. Just like the Ravens, this isn't really saying that the Bills got worse. Very similar team, very good team. I just think there'll be a little bit more parity this season. I think it's a lot more balanced and even league. So I don't think we'll necessarily see a team like the Chiefs get 15 wins, or the Lions and the Vikings, as you can see on the right. I don't think they'll both get 14 wins. Now, 11 seems a bit low, but I don't think there'll be a ton of teams getting a ton of wins. So that's why you see teams like the Bills and Ravens, despite being very similar, dropping by a game. Again, not much to really talk about the Bills. Just a very good team that's still very good. Dolphins at 8-9. They actually won 8 games last year as well. They're just probably going to be healthier this year. Now, who knows what happens with Jalen Ramsey if he gets traded. But if Tua can stay healthy, they're going to be a good team like they always are. Patriots at 7-10. That's actually a 3-win improvement from last year because Drake May now is the full-time starter. He's in year 2. They bring in Stephon Diggs. You bring in Mike Vrabel, who I think is a good coach still. You still are going to have good defenses historically. Not only have the Patriots had good defenses, but when Mike Vrabel was the coach of the Titans, they had good defenses. So I don't see why it would change that much. So I think the Patriots are going to take a big jump this year. Again, I don't think they can necessarily get in the playoffs, kind of like the Jags, but I do think they will show a lot of improvement this year. And the Jets at 5-12, same win total as last year. Justin Fields being the quarterback, he can win you games. He won a lot of games on Pittsburgh if you have a good team around him. Even his last year in Chicago, when they had a decent team around him, he was able to win them games. So Justin Fields can win you games as a quarterback. So I think the Jets can be just okay. I know I have them as 5 wins, but they don't have as good of a team around the quarterback as they've had recently. So I think it will be a bit of a struggle, especially if the Patriots do take the step up that I think they can take. And if teams like the Dolphins can stay healthy, I have a hard time the Jets being able to win games, even in their division. I have them going 0-6 in their division. So I think it will be a tough season for the Jets. And then in the NFC North, we have the Lions at 11-6. As I mentioned, it does seem low. It's a 4-win decrease than last year. I mean, they did lose Ben Johnson. They lost Aaron Glenn. We still have to wait and see how Aiden Hutchinson will recover from his injury last year. They obviously did not look great in the playoffs. And this is more of their division is getting really good. Vikings are still really good. The Packers are still really good. The Bears got a lot better this offseason. So I think it'll just be, they won 4 games in their division. They have a very tough schedule. I can quickly look at their schedule here. They play, obviously, the Packers and the Bears. They play the Ravens. They play the Chiefs. They play the Bucks, the Commanders, the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Rams. Even teams like Pittsburgh can be good at times. Bengals, obviously. It's a very tough schedule for the Lions. So I do see them taking a step back record-wise, but I still think they can easily be one of the better teams in the NFC North. Vikings, also at 11-6, is a 3-win decrease from last year, mainly because of the question mark of J.J. McCarthy. Outside of J.J. McCarthy, they have a very good team. A very good team around him. It's just all about what are we going to get from J.J. McCarthy. I think he will be able to play within the system, and it's a very good system coaching-wise and, as I mentioned before, talent-wise. So I do think he'll put up good production. He may not raise the ceiling of the Vikings, at least right now. But I do think he'll raise the floor because I think he'll be able to play within the system very well and just make right decisions. But again, very tough division. I think it's going to be a very tough league to get wins in this year. Hopefully. It's always, I feel like, a good thing when there's a lot of parity within the league. So I do have them getting 11 wins, but again, still one of the better records in the league. Packers at 9-8. It is a 2-win decrease, which again is a trend within this division. But it's more of just how good the other teams are. Mainly the Bears. Like, the Bears won 1 game in their division. Now I only have them winning 2, but I feel like just their improvement alone is going to cause some of these teams to drop by. And again, they also have tough schedules playing the AFC North. All these teams in the divisions play the AFC North, and they play the NFC East, which, based on my predictions, I have 5 playoff teams in those two divisions alone. So each of these teams in the NFC North are playing potentially 5 playoff teams, as well as okay teams like the Giants and Pittsburgh. So they have very tough schedules, which is a reason why they are dropping. So if you just look at the Lions and Vikings having 11 wins, it may seem low, but I'm telling you, if you look at their schedule, it's not, and with who they're playing in their division, it's not as crazy. Especially with the Lions losing their 2 coordinators and the Vikings going to a rookie quarterback in J.J. McCarthy. Back to the Packers, 2-win decrease. Didn't think they got that much. Didn't think they got worse, really. I just think they might take a step back with the difficulty of schedule, but they're still going to be a very good team. And the Bears at 8-9, a 4-win improvement, or no, a 3-win improvement. They won 5 games last year. They made a ton of great additions. You bring in all the linemen, Dahlman, Tooney, I think Jonah Jackson. You still have more in Odunze. You add Loveland with Cole Kmet. Your defense is still going to be very good. It's a very improved, and obviously you have Ben Johnson now as your head coach. I expect a big improvement for the Bears. But again, 8 wins is a good season. Not only is it a 3-win improvement, but you're almost above 500. And you're still 3 games below the NFC North. It's just such a tough division for them. I could see them sneaking into that 7 or 6 spot in the playoffs, but I just think it's going to be tough to beat the Lions, especially if they exceed my expectations of 11 wins. Last 2 divisions here. First, the AFC West. Chiefs at 14-3. It's a 1-win. They got 1 win worse. Again, there's still the Chiefs. They're still going to be good. So I don't think they're going to take a massive fall off. I think Mahomes actually might have a really good year with a potentially improved line and with what happened in the Super Bowl. So they're still going to be a good team. 14 wins is still obviously very good. Broncos at 10-7. They won 10 wins last year. They got 10 wins last year. I could see them actually getting more than this because of the additions they made, like Hufanga and Dre Greenlaw, Evan Ingram. You still have a very good defense. I just think it's going to be very tough in this division and with their schedule. But again, they got a 5 seed, so I think that's a very realistic season for them. I just think it's going to be hard for them to win the division. But they got the best record, according to my predictions, outside of the division winners. Chargers at 9-8. It is a 2-win decrease. Again, they didn't get that much worse. I just ended up having them win 9 games. Very similar team to last year. And then lastly, the Raiders at 5-12 is a 1-win improvement. You add Geno Smith, which is a much-needed quarterback upgrade. Ashton Genty is a much-needed running back upgrade. And then the rest of the team is pretty much the same. And I think Genty and Geno Smith are good enough to get you 1 more win, maybe even 2 more wins. So I could easily, I realistically see them getting around 5 to 6 wins. And then lastly, the NFC East. We have the Eagles at 12-5, 2-win decrease from last year. Again, not them getting worse. It's just their division's getting better. And that's pretty much it. Mainly the Cowboys, who I have at 11-6, is a 4-win increase. Now, I don't think they're going to go back to their usual regular season production of getting like 13, 14 wins that they seem to always get. But Dak's healthy. A lot of other guys are healthy. You bring in George Pickens, who's a good player. They're just mainly getting healthier. And despite all the injuries, they still won 7 games last year. And now, if Dak plays a whole season with George Pickens added to the team, I don't see why they can't get 10-plus wins. Commanders at 12-5, it is a 1-win worse season, but it's pretty much the same season. I know they had Debo and Laramie Tunsil, and I like those additions. But being in a division with the Eagles, with the Cowboys, and even the Giants, who aren't a bad team, I don't think, it's going to be tough to squeak out wins. They also play the NFC North, which is a very good division, so I think their schedule is just going to be hard for them to get back to 12 wins, but 11 wins is still a very good season for the Commanders. And I do think they will go back to making noise in the playoffs just like they did last year. And then the last team is the Giants at 6-11. It is a 3-win improvement for the G-Men. They add in Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston as their quarterbacks, as well as Jackson Dart. And honestly, that's pretty much it. You still have Malik Neighbors, still have Darius Slayton, Tyrone Tracy. You still have the good young D-line with Burns and Dexter Lawrence, and you bring in Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau. It's pretty much just the 2 quarterbacks and Abdul Carter. And I think those quarterbacks are good enough to add 3 wins to the Giants' record. Now we will do our playoff predictions. We're going to do these live, but we're going to do them quick. Texans, Broncos. I'm going to go with the Broncos here. I had them winning the regular season game that these 2 teams played. And I just think the defensive line is going to be a little bit much for that Texans O-line to handle. So I'm going to go Broncos. Ravens, Chargers. I'm going to go with the Ravens here. They've just shown a little. The Chargers haven't shown a lot in the playoffs. Justin Herbert hasn't been the best in the playoffs. And now he's going up against a very good team in the Ravens. I just historically don't see how they can win that game. Bengals, Bills. I just think the Bengals defense, although I think in the regular season that offense can carry the defense, I just don't know if they'll be able to carry them in the playoffs, especially against a team like the Bills. Josh Allen might score 40 on the Bengals in this game, so I just don't think the defense will last in the playoffs. Rams, Vikings, the team played last year when Sam Darnold was the quarterback, and I don't think it'll be much different with J.J. McCarthy at quarterback. It's a rookie quarterback in his first playoff game against one of the more experienced quarterbacks in the league in Matt Stafford. I just think it'll be a tough win for the Vikings, but I do think they will be going up from this point on instead of plateauing. Cowboys, Bucks. This is an interesting one. These teams have played recently. I think the Cowboys beat Tom Brady in the playoffs in his last playoff game. I'm going to go with, you know what? I know the Cowboys, haven't made the NFC Championship and whatever, that joke. But I'm actually going to go with the Cowboys here because they are, or I would imagine they're healthy if they get 11 wins. So I think at this point the Cowboys will be good enough to get a playoff win. I like the Bucks. They didn't look great against the Commanders. They didn't look bad either last year in the playoffs. But I'm going to go with the Cowboys here. And we get a rematch of the divisional round with the Lions and the Commanders. Obviously, the Commanders pretty easily beat the Lions last year. Hopefully the Lions are healthier on defense in this game than they were last year. And I don't see how the Lions get too loose to the Commanders. You know what? No, I'm going to go with the Commanders. I'm a huge Jaden Daniels believer, as many are. And I think the Commanders can do it 2 years in a row. Moving on to the divisional round, I'm going to go with the Bills and the Chiefs here in the AFC. Chiefs just are going to make it to the AFC Championship. They just do it. They find a way. And then the Bills, I think, have the slight advantage over the Ravens when it comes to the playoffs. And I think that will continue. In the NFC, I do think the Eagles will beat the Commanders if they were to meet again. It didn't go well last year for the Commanders. And I do think they are better. I just think the Eagles are one of the better teams in all of football, if not the best. And then Cowboys, Rams. I'm going to go with the Rams. I know that sets up for identical championship matchups as last year, but I think the Rams are still a very good team, and I think they're going to be better than last year. And I'm going to follow suit here, and I'm going to go Chiefs-Eagles to play in the Super Bowl. Mahomes just knows how to beat Josh Allen in the playoffs, and I just don't know if the Rams, once again, would have enough to contain Saquon Barkley. However, when it comes to the Super Bowl, unfortunately, I'm going to pick the Chiefs, even though I low-key potentially would root for the Chiefs so the Eagles don't go back-to-back. But then the Chiefs would have been 3 in 4 years. But honestly, I can't picture teams like the Bills or the Ravens or the Cowboys or the Commanders or the Lions or the Vikings making the Super Bowl. I just can't picture it. I think these two teams are not only clearly the best teams in general, but I think these two are clearly the best teams when it comes to the playoffs. And until I'm proven wrong, I'm going to continue to think that these teams will meet in the playoffs. Here's our final playoff bracket. And then here are a quick look through at the final records as well. If you enjoyed the video, as I said earlier, leave a like, subscribe if you are new, and please in the comment section below. Last time we did our record predictions, we had a lot of comments about some people's thoughts of certain teams' records. So if you have any opinions, let me know in the comment section below on teams' records, on my predictions or your own. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.